Hello and welcome to today's presentation. My name's Lucy and I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Frog. Today's presentation is titled, Is Your LMS a Mood Hoover? And we're going to address some of those uncomfortable truths as the presentation goes on. But first of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Frog and about our LMS journey. So Frog have been established over 20 years and we started our journey working with schools, local authorities and governments across the globe, rolling out learning platforms to students and teachers. And then around 5 years ago, we diversified into the commercial sector, taking those skills that we'd learned back into businesses. So as I said, we've been established around 20 years. We have 12 million users across the globe. And we work with around 12,000 organisations in 24 countries. And that spans, as I said, from large-scale organisations, government projects, schools, businesses, charities and outreach. Today, we're going to cover some of the following topics. First of all, when we're addressing is your LMS a mood hoover, the importance of the role of L&D and the L&D team within the organisations. Then we'll look at is your LMS a mood hoover and some of those pain points. You may find some of those familiar and you may not have actually really dig down and establish those just yet. Also, why do learners hate e-learning content and the importance of the implementation and getting it right first time? We all know a piece of tech is hard to get off the ground, so it's important that you have a plan and you get it right first time. Then we'll look at understanding your audience and understanding how staff, learners, how they learn and their different learning preferences. Then we'll dig down into how we are delivering and sharing and maybe even sourcing learning content. And do you measure the impact? So what's important to you? How do you measure it? How do you report on it? And finally, the magic and sparkle. So what's making your LMS engaging and exciting? And most importantly, what's getting learners to go in and actually digest content. So what we do know when we surveyed senior employees recently is that many said that they don't feel supported with their LMS or not supported enough. But also, are they engaged in the learning platform? And 66%, over 66% said no, they don't actually feel engaged. So let's start with the role of L&D. It's a very important role and choosing the right LMS is key. But those decisions are not always just with the L&D team. They're influenced by senior leaders, senior managers across the organisation, and many will have differing priorities, but also the success over time may change, the direction of the organisation may change. So it's important to keep reviewing what you have and what the purpose is. So getting the right LMS in place and getting it right first time is key. But also if you're going to change LMS, thinking about what worked well, what didn't work so well, and what are the new goals of the organisation that you're in. So let's address the question, is your LMS a mood hoover? So when you're looking for an LMS, generally you look for those functional requirements. Does it deliver the learning content? Can I get reports from my LMS? Do I get them scheduled to me? What does the journey look like? Can I construct my own courses? Can I bring in content or SCORM content? How are people going to access the materials? Are those materials or that content going to be transactional? So is it a piece of compliant content that you want somebody to tick a box and say they've done it, or a policy? Or are you looking at transforming the way that you work? Are you looking at creating learning pathways, career pathways, making the content engaging? And how are you measuring that? How do you measure the impact of that training? Is it a compliance report that says X amount of people in the organisation are compliant with this? Or are you trying to get them to understand and digest content and make business improvements? Are you also addressing people's different learning preferences? So do you even know how staff across the organisation learn? Do the team leaders or managers feed back to you? And also getting the information, it's easy to get reports on data, but is it meaningful? And is it scheduled? And is it giving you the results that you need? So can you actually understand it and can you present that? So it's much more than just looking at your LMS and seeing if it works. It's looking at how is that being used, how are people engaging with your LMS across the organisation, but also is an extension of your language, the way that you work, and what gives it that magic and sparkle. Now let's look at some of those pain points and see if any of them sound familiar to you. First of all, is it easy to use or is it too difficult to use? And we hear these things quite often. It's clunky, it's difficult to use, I can't find my way through the content, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't understand why I'm doing it. There might be no buy-in, no emotional connection to the platform because it doesn't feel like the organisation I'm working with. No clear picture of the impact. As an admin, I don't have the ability to control what I'm doing, or I've picked up the LMS from a predecessor and I just don't know how it works or what we're doing with it. And it's not adaptable. As I mentioned earlier, businesses change, businesses diversify, teams grow, teams shrink. Is your LMS adaptable to that? 35% of users in a survey that we conducted say that it's difficult to use, and the difficulty was the top reason of the dissatisfaction within their LMS. So why do learners hate e-learning content? Often it's because it's too boring. I don't have enough time to go through the content, so it's too long. It might not be relevant to me and my role, or if it is, I don't know why. And it's not aligned with the organisational goals. You could have been told we're going in this direction, so why am I undertaking e-learning content which is nothing like that? I don't understand why I'm doing it or the relevance to it. It may be important to my role, but I don't know why it is. I don't know why I'm doing it, and therefore I'm not engaged. The content quality might not also be matching to the rest of the content that you deliver within your platform. And we all know it's if you've got a disengaged team that aren't really learning, if there's something wrong with the content, probably they'll be the first ones to shout. And lack of interactivity. If I learn through doing quizzes or hotspot activities, then maybe reading a 20-page document and ticking that I've understood and digested it isn't the right way forward for me. So it's about breaking down that content and that lack of interaction. So let's go back to the basics and look about getting it right first time. When you're implementing a new piece of technology, when you're implementing a new system, when you're investing a lot of money in something and time, it's important to start right at the beginning as in, what is the purpose of this technology? What is the purpose of this platform within the organisation? What am I trying to achieve? What are the current problems that I have? What are the things that are going really, really well? And how do I continue doing that? So what is the purpose of this LMS, this platform within this particular organisation? Once I've established what I'm trying to achieve, maybe I've set myself a list of criteria, How will I then measure the impact of the platform? What is it doing for me? How do I make sure that it's actually doing the things that I set out for it to achieve? So what are those milestones? What are those measurables that I need to put in place? And how am I going to define the responsibility? As a L&D lead or manager, it may be that the responsibility of implementing this is mine, but it may be that team managers also have a responsibility to gain their reports and feedback to me. So how are you going to bring a team on board and get some key buy-in? Then how are you going to create transparency and accountability? So is it part of somebody's job role to make this happen? Then where is the content coming from? Am I creating and authoring the content? Am I buying in content? Or do I have specialists in the organisation that already have this information and I can bring that in and get them engaged and involved in the platform? So where am I getting the content from, and is it relevant? Knowing your audience is also key, and you might not know that, but so you may end up surveying your learners, or you may end up speaking to managers, but considering individual learning preferences is going to ensure that you get the buy-in that you need. And mixing things up a little bit can also be quite helpful. So do your learners learn through looking at images or quizzes? Do you want them to demonstrate competence through maybe a video? Is it audio work? Do you want them to engage in hotspot activities? Social learning. So not all learning needs to be delivered through a platform as online learning. It could be a combination, a blended experience, or it could be working in a classroom environment or grouping people together, and that's social elements, they learn from each other. Is it a career pathway that you need to guide learners through, but maybe have a mentor or track as you're going through that they are where they're meant to be? Or is it completely independent learning, self-study? So delivering and sharing content, constructing engaging resources, leveraging expertise within your business, and understanding learning preferences can then all be translated and put into your platform in whichever way suits you. So understanding the user journey, making content relevant, maybe only showing content that you want your learners to see by department or by role, but splitting that up and constructing those resources to your audience is the way that we would work within a platform. Then assessing that knowledge. So is this a piece of compliance training that you want people to have worked through and tick to say that they've understood it? Or are you wanting your learners to retain this information? So even with compliance-based training, surely we all want to, if we want to get our learners, we want to aspire to get them to retain this knowledge. And creating interactive exercises can certainly help with that, to ensure that learners don't just sleepwalk through the content. But then also think about formative assessments and tasks, and maybe in the workplace or on the job activities to demonstrate that knowledge is actually being put into practice. When we're talking about demonstrating competence, there are various tools that we can use to capture evidence. So once I've learnt my content, and once I've learnt something, how do I then apply that to my role? And you could demonstrate that through video, through audio, or through photographs. And it's great for things like apprenticeships, and your CPD, and even for appraisals, if you're doing walking through and just showing people what have I learnt, or even career progression. Now, measuring the impact as an L&D expert or L&D team, you'll have to create reports. And I mentioned at the beginning, when we're looking at the journey through, the tools that you use, you need to demonstrate that they're actually making a difference. And that could be that my head's on the block and I need to basically have a report of how compliant we are as an organisation. But it could be something like somebody's walking through a 6, 8 week, 12 week course of content, and we want to see where everybody is. So having comprehensive reporting, in-depth reporting, or regular scheduled reporting is great, but customizing them and tailoring them to what you need and what your teams need will really show you how impactful that learning has been. It will also help you identify where your learners might be struggling, but it can also help you demonstrate the value of your LMS to the stakeholders that have been involved in the decision making. Now, we talk about the magic and sparkle and understanding the user's journey, but it's important for you to remember that the LMS should fit you rather than you trying to fit the boxes within an LMS. And it's about understanding the user journey, understanding your branding, your guidelines, what are you trying to achieve. For example, here, Princess Yachts, we're all about attracting new apprentices into the organisations. What are you going to get when you come on board? How do we look at the recruitment process? Because that is then reflected once you join an organisation. For Upper Baby, they have franchises within organisations, and what they're looking to do is train the staff within other businesses on how to use their products rather than another one. So again, it's a slightly different look and feel and language. And GMI, a construction company that have taken this right through into their HR portal. So they have their courses, their content, but also a lot around social learning and events. But what else can your LMS do for you? How else can you construct it? So it could be things like you want to talk about social events or your Christmas party. It may be that you really want to involve people in surveying them and mental health and well-being, getting newsletters out there, resources, CPD and appraisal, or just displaying things like your brand guidelines and how important that is to you as an organisation. So it's more than just an LMS. It's about using it to be an extension of your organisation. You may also want to award certificates to learners, in that a piece of content may be worthy of a certificate, but others might not. So what do you want to award certification to? Do you want to list the CPD or the training hours? Do you want to list the key skills? But again, it's your certificate, so let's brand it in your way. So in summary, don't be afraid to make changes. It's important to review your LMS and the purpose of it, because the organisation's goals and priorities will change. Don't leave it in the hands of one person. Have a clear vision, a clear purpose and a clear focus. And consider individuals' learning preferences. Set some milestones to see whether you've achieved what you set out and intended to do. And make sure that accountability for staff charged with its development are in place. Create an emotional attachment to keep that engagement going, and be sure to review and measure the impact. Finally, I'd say to you, don't look for a supplier. Look for a partner who's going to really understand your business, how you work, how your learners work. And we've learned all of these things and much more because we work really closely with our customers. In fact, we don't call them customers, we call them our partners. And we know what works. We've got years of education experience, and we know what works, we know what doesn't work, and we create completely bespoke platforms and hold hands of our partners through their implementation journey and beyond. So if any of this has resonated with you in any way whatsoever, we'd love for you to pop over and join us at stand E110. And also, we have Freddo Frogs. So we hope to see you, and thank you very much for watching this presentation today.